It was a cold winter night. Standing at the corner of a mist-covered street was 17-year-old Michael. He wore an old torn jacket and held a basketball in his hand. He had no home to return to, because he had no home at all. The streets were his only shelter now. Every day after school, he would spend hours playing basketball at a nearby park. Where other kids played for fun, Michael played for his dream. Once he had a small family, but after his father's death and his mother's illness, everything changed. Their money drained away due to his mother's medical bills, and eventually, they lost their home too. Now Michael lived on the streets, but he hadn't let go of his dream, playing in the NBA. Whenever he had a basketball in his hand, he felt like he was in another world. Despite all the hardship, there was a different kind of fire in Michael's eyes. He had only one goal: to play in the NBA, to become someone great, and to bring his mother back to a life of comfort. That dream was what kept him going, day after day. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to subscribe to our channel. More amazing stories are on the way that will leave you inspired. Away from the busy city, Michael stood alone, bouncing the ball on the pavement. The streetlights were dim, but the fire in his eyes still burned brightly. Michael's dream was different from everyone else's. While other kids spent their time hanging out on the streets, Michael's mind was always consumed by basketball. His life was hard, but there was one thing he never wanted to let go of: the dream of playing in the NBA. Every day he would spend hours alone at the park, practicing basketball. He had no coach, no proper shoes, no fancy equipment. But he knew his greatest strength was his determination. Whenever he held that ball, he could see himself on a court, with thousands of people cheering for him, chanting his name. He imagined the day when he would play on a platform like the NBA, and all his hardships would finally end. In his mind, the future was clear. One day he would be part of a great basketball team, making his mother proud. That dream pushed him every single day to work harder. Yet, in front of him stood the harsh reality: an invisible wall, his poverty, his loneliness. But even in the midst of all this struggle, Michael never stopped. While his friends spent their time doing other things, Michael would show up at the park, practicing endlessly. In his heart, there was always one thought: one day I will play in the NBA. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but that challenge was his greatest motivation in life. The NBA wasn't just a dream for him. It was his only hope to keep going. One evening, as Michael was practicing late at the park, something unusual happened. The park was mostly empty, except for a few people walking by. The cold wind blew through the air, but Michael was too focused on his practice to notice. As he dribbled the ball, perfecting his moves, he suddenly heard the sound of footsteps approaching. He didn't pay much attention at first, thinking it was just another passerby. But then, he noticed the figure wasn't moving away. In fact, the person seemed to be watching him. Michael glanced up, and to his shock, he saw someone he never imagined he would meet in his life. It was LeBron James. For a moment, Michael couldn't believe his eyes. The same LeBron James he had seen countless times on TV, dominating the basketball court, was now standing right in front of him. He froze, unsure of what to say or do. His heart raced and the ball slipped from his hands. LeBron smiled at him, noticing the surprise on Michael's face. "You've got some serious skills, kid," LeBron said, his voice calm yet powerful. "I've been watching you for a while. What's your name?" Michael stammered, barely able to get his words out. Michael. I'm Michael." LeBron nodded, his eyes full of curiosity. "Michael, huh? I can tell you've been working hard out here. How long have you been playing?" Michael, still in disbelief, managed to reply, "I've been practicing every day. I want to play in the NBA someday." LeBron's smile widened. "That's a big dream. But with the dedication I see in you, I think you've got a real shot." At that moment, Michael felt a rush of emotions: shock, excitement, and hope all at once. LeBron James, his idol, had just given him the validation he'd been longing for. But little did Michael know, this was just the beginning of something much bigger. LeBron could sense that there was more to Michael's story. After their brief exchange, he motioned for Michael to sit down on a nearby bench. "Tell me more about yourself, Michael," LeBron said, his voice gentle but curious. Michael hesitated at first. He wasn't used to sharing his story, especially with someone like LeBron James. But something in LeBron's eyes made him feel like he could trust him. So, he took a deep breath and began. "I wasn't always on the streets," Michael said quietly. "I had a family. My dad passed away a few years ago, and my mom, she's sick. We lost everything. Our house, our savings, just trying to keep her alive. Now it's just me trying to survive. I play basketball because, well, it's all I've got left. It's the only thing that makes sense anymore." LeBron listened intently, his expression softening as Michael continued. "I come to this park every day after school. I don't have much, but I practice for hours because I have a dream. I want to play in the NBA. I want to make my mom proud, but it feels impossible sometimes, you know? I don't even have a place to stay most nights." The vulnerability in Michael's voice hit LeBron hard. He could see the raw determination in the boy's eyes, but also the weight of the struggles he carried. It was a story of pain, loss, and resilience, a story that LeBron knew all too well. He had grown up in tough circumstances too, but he had support. Michael had no one. After a long pause, LeBron spoke. "I know it's hard, Michael, but you've got something special. I can see it in you. And sometimes, even when everything feels like it's falling apart, that's when you need to keep pushing the hardest." Michael looked up at LeBron, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. For the first time, he felt like someone truly understood what he was going through. LeBron sat in silence for a moment after hearing Michael's story. He had seen many talented young players in his life, but Michael's situation was different. This was more than just basketball. Michael wasn't just fighting for a dream. He was fighting for survival. LeBron couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do something. After a few moments of thought, LeBron looked at Michael and said, "You know, I didn't get here on my own either. I had people who believed in me, who helped me when I needed it most. And I can see you've got something in you that's worth believing in." Michael stared at him, unsure of where this was going. His heart raced as LeBron continued. "I want to help you, Michael. Not just with basketball, but with life. I've been where you are. Maybe not exactly the same, but I know what it's like to feel like the world is against you. But you don't have to do this alone." Michael blinked, trying to process what LeBron was saying. "Help me? How?" LeBron smiled, his tone firm yet kind. "We'll start with the basics. First, I'm going to make sure you have a safe place to stay. No more sleeping on the streets. You need stability if you're going to chase your dreams. Second, I'm going to help you with your training. You've got raw talent, but you need guidance, and I'll connect you with the right people to help you grow, both on and off the court." Michael's eyes widened. This was beyond anything he had imagined. LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players in the world, was offering to help him, not just as a player, but as a person. "But why?" Michael asked, still in disbelief. LeBron's expression softened. "Because someone did the same for me once, and now it's my turn to pay it forward. You've got a real shot at this, Michael. Let's make sure you take it." For the first time in a long while, Michael felt a surge of hope. LeBron was offering him a lifeline, a way out of the darkness he had been trapped in. It felt like a dream, but it was real. And he knew, from that moment on, his life would never be the same. The next morning, Michael woke up in a real bed for the first time in months. LeBron had arranged a temporary place for him to stay, safe, warm, and quiet. As Michael stared at the ceiling, he still couldn't fully believe what had happened. The conversation with LeBron felt like a blur, but today was real. Today, his training with one of the greatest players in basketball history would begin. By noon, Michael found himself at a private gym LeBron had arranged. The court was pristine, the kind of place Michael had only seen in his dreams. LeBron arrived shortly after, dressed in his training gear, looking every bit like the legend Michael had idolized for years. But today, LeBron wasn't just an NBA star. He was Michael's mentor. "Ready to put in some work?" LeBron asked, tossing Michael a basketball. Michael nodded, gripping the ball tightly. He was nervous but excited. This was his chance to prove himself, to show LeBron that his faith wasn't misplaced. LeBron started with the basics, testing Michael's skills, dribbling, shooting, footwork. Michael was good, but LeBron could see where he needed improvement. "You've got the passion, Michael," LeBron said, watching him shoot. "But we're going to sharpen those skills. You've got to be quicker, smarter, more precise. In the NBA, it's about more than just raw talent. It's about mastering every detail." For hours they worked. LeBron guided Michael through intense drills, focusing on speed, agility, and endurance. Every time Michael thought he was pushing his limit, LeBron pushed him further. "You can rest when the work is done," LeBron said, smiling as Michael struggled to catch his breath. At one point, Michael missed a shot and groaned in frustration. LeBron walked over, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Don't beat yourself up. Mistakes are part of the process. It's how you respond that matters." By the end of the day, Michael was exhausted, drenched in sweat. But he had never felt more alive. This was the hardest training he had ever experienced, but he knew it was necessary. If he wanted to make it to the NBA, this was the level of work he had to put in every day. As they wrapped up, LeBron looked at Michael and said, "This is just the beginning. You've got a long road ahead, but if you keep putting in the work, you'll get there." Michael nodded, determined. He had never been more sure of what he wanted in his life. And with LeBron's guidance, for the first time, that dream felt within reach. As the days passed, Michael threw himself into the training with everything he had. The private gym became his second home, and LeBron's guidance pushed him harder than he ever thought possible. But despite the intense training and newfound support, the challenges weren't over. In fact, they were just beginning. The first major hurdle Michael faced was his own body. Years of living on the streets had taken a toll. His muscles weren't as strong as they needed to be, and his stamina was far from where it should be for someone aspiring to play in the NBA. LeBron had him working on his fitness, pushing him through grueling workouts that made him want to quit. Every time he felt his body screaming for rest, LeBron would be there, urging him to keep going. "You've got to fight through the pain, Michael," LeBron would say, eyes steady and focused. "The game doesn't stop just because you're tired." But it wasn't just physical pain Michael had to contend with. The mental challenges were just as difficult. The constant self-doubt crept in, especially on days when things didn't go as planned. His shots weren't always falling. His moves weren't as sharp as they needed to be. At times, he couldn't help but wonder if he was good enough, if the dream of making it to the NBA was too far out of reach. One afternoon, after a particularly tough practice where Michael missed multiple shots and failed to keep up during drills, he sat down on the sidelines, frustration written all over his face. LeBron noticed and walked over, sitting next to him. "You're feeling down, huh?" Michael nodded, his head low. "I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. Maybe I'm just not good enough." LeBron placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice calm but firm. "I've been where you are. It's easy to think you're not enough when things aren't going your way. But let me tell you something. Success isn't about never failing. It's about getting back up every time you fall. You've got the heart. That's what matters most. Everything else can be built." Michael took a deep breath, looking up at LeBron. "I don't want to let you down. You won't," LeBron replied, giving him a reassuring smile. "You're not alone in this. I'm here to help you every step of the way. You've got what it takes, but you've got to trust the process." With renewed determination, Michael stood up, ready to get back into the game. It wasn't going to be easy, but with every challenge, he grew stronger. The road ahead was tough, but he wasn't about to give up. Not now. Not when his dream was finally within reach. As the weeks went by, Michael's training intensified, but so did his relationship with LeBron. What had started as a simple mentorship turned into something deeper. LeBron wasn't just teaching Michael basketball. He was teaching him about life, discipline, and the strength it took to keep going when everything seemed impossible. LeBron became more than just a coach to Michael. He became a father figure. During every training session, LeBron would offer advice that went beyond the court. He shared stories from his own life about the struggles he faced growing up, the mistakes he had made, and the lessons he learned along the way. One afternoon, after a tough workout, LeBron sat down with Michael, who was wiping the sweat off his face. "You know, when I first started out, I thought I had to do everything by myself," LeBron said, his voice thoughtful. "I didn't trust anyone, and I pushed people away. But I learned that it's okay to rely on others. That's how you grow. That's how you get better." Michael listened intently, taking in every word. "I've always felt like I had to do everything alone," he admitted. "I never had anyone to depend on." LeBron nodded, understanding. "I get it. But look, you don't have to carry all the weight by yourself. It's okay to lean on the people who care about you. You've got me, and you've got people who believe in you. You've got a team now." Michael's eyes softened as he realized the truth in LeBron's words. He had always been alone, but now, with LeBron's support, he was part of something bigger. He wasn't just training for the NBA. He was learning how to become the best version of himself, both as a player and as a person. LeBron continued, "The NBA isn't just about talent, Michael. It's about mentality, discipline, and character. You've got to show up every day, not just for the game, but for yourself. You've got to believe in yourself, even when no one else does." The more time Michael spent with LeBron, the more he realized how much he had to learn, not just about basketball, but about life. LeBron's mentorship went far beyond the court. He wasn't just shaping Michael into a basketball player. He was shaping him into a man who could face anything life threw at him. And for the first time in a long time, Michael truly believed that he had what it took to succeed, not just in basketball, but in life. LeBron had given him the tools, the wisdom, and the belief he needed to turn his dreams into reality. As the months passed, Michael began to show signs of transformation, both on and off the court. The raw talent that had once been untapped was now being honed with precision. LeBron's mentorship had made a world of difference. His physical strength improved, his shots became more accurate, and his footwork was sharper than ever. But it wasn't just his skills that were improving. His confidence was growing too. The once timid teenager who had doubted his potential now walked with purpose. During practice, he attacked every drill with an intensity and focus that LeBron had only hoped for. He pushed through exhaustion, knowing that every moment spent training was one step closer to his dream. The mental game, which had once held him back, was now his greatest asset. He had learned to quiet the self-doubt and channel his energy into becoming the best version of himself. One day, after a particularly intense practice, LeBron watched Michael closely. The improvement was undeniable. Michael had made significant strides in a short amount of time. His dribbling was smoother, his reaction time quicker, and his stamina had increased drastically. But what stood out to LeBron the most was Michael's mindset. He no longer saw obstacles as barriers. He saw them as challenges to overcome. "You're getting there, Michael," LeBron said, tossing him a towel after a particularly tough session. "You've been working hard and it's paying off. But remember, this is just the beginning." Michael wiped his face, a tired but satisfied smile on his lips. "I'm not stopping. I'm ready for whatever comes next." LeBron nodded, impressed by the determination in his voice. "Good. That's what I like to hear." The improvement wasn't just physical. It was emotional too. Michael had learned how to handle failure. Every missed shot, every failed attempt, was now an opportunity for growth. LeBron had taught him that success wasn't about avoiding failure. It was about how you bounced back from it. Soon, Michael was playing with a level of skill that surprised even those who had watched him train. His confidence soared, and with it, his performance. LeBron began to take him to local games, showing him what it was like to play in a competitive environment. The more Michael played, the more he realized just how far he had come. He wasn't the same teenager who had once slept on the streets dreaming of the NBA. He was a player, a force to be reckoned with, and the dream was now within his grasp. LeBron's guidance had given him the foundation he needed, and Michael was determined to build on it, no matter the cost. The road ahead was still long, but he was no longer afraid. With each practice, each game, he knew he was getting closer to where he truly belonged, the NBA. As Michael's skills improved, word began to spread. It started with local basketball scouts who had heard about the young talent being mentored by none other than LeBron James. At first, they were skeptical. It wasn't every day that a homeless teenager was given the chance to train under an NBA legend. But when they saw Michael's progress firsthand, their doubts quickly vanished. One afternoon, after a particularly impressive practice session, LeBron received a call. A major sports news outlet wanted to feature Michael's story. The story of the homeless teenager who had been taken under LeBron's wing was too compelling to ignore. LeBron was hesitant at first. He had always kept his personal mentorships private, but this was different. Michael had earned this moment, and the world deserved to know how far he had come. Within days, cameras were rolling. Journalists, photographers, and sports commentators flooded the gym where Michael had been training. The media attention was overwhelming, but Michael handled it with a level of grace that surprised even LeBron. He was no longer the shy, unsure teenager he once was. He spoke confidently about his journey, about the hardships he had faced, and about his dreams of making it to the NBA. "I've been through a lot," Michael told the camera, his voice steady. "But basketball has always been my escape, my hope. LeBron gave me a chance when no one else would. And now I'm working every day to turn that chance into something real." The media attention didn't just stop with the story, they wanted more. Highlights of Michael's practices, his interviews, and his moments with LeBron were broadcast across social media, news websites, and even on national television. People started to recognize his face, and the more they saw, the more they believed in him. The boy who had been living on the streets was now a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the power of second chances. LeBron stood by him throughout the entire process, guiding him through the newfound spotlight. "This is just part of the journey," LeBron said one day as they sat in the gym, watching the news coverage on a nearby screen. "People will be watching you now, but don't let it distract you from what matters most. You've still got work to do." Michael nodded, grateful for the reminder. The attention was exciting, but he knew this was just the beginning. He had a long way to go before he could step onto an NBA court. Yet, with each interview, each piece of media coverage, he felt the weight of his dream growing lighter. The world was starting to believe in him, and that belief fueled his fire to work even harder. The story of Michael, the homeless teenager turned basketball prodigy, had gone viral. But for Michael, it wasn't about the fame or the media buzz. It was about proving to himself that he had what it took to make his dream come true. And with LeBron by his side, he was more determined than ever to see it through. As Michael's story continued to spread, it wasn't long before NBA scouts started taking notice. His rapid improvement and the buzz around his training with LeBron made him a prime candidate for something most young players could only dream of: a tryout. The moment came unexpectedly. One afternoon, as Michael and LeBron were wrapping up another intense practice, LeBron received a phone call from a contact in the NBA. "They want to give you a shot, Michael," LeBron said with a smile after hanging up the phone. "An official tryout with the G League team?" Michael's heart skipped a beat. This was it. Everything he had been working for, the countless hours of practice, the sacrifices, the sweat, it all led to this moment. He was being given a real opportunity to prove himself, not just to the scouts, but to himself as well. "When is it?" Michael asked, his voice shaky with a mixture of excitement and nerves. "Next week," LeBron replied, clapping him on the shoulder. "We've got a little time to prepare, but I think you're ready." In the days leading up to the tryout, Michael's training intensified even more. LeBron pushed him harder than ever, making sure every move, every shot, and every decision on the court was sharp. There was no room for mistakes now. This was his chance, and he had to be at his best. Michael felt the pressure building. He knew this was the opportunity of a lifetime, but the weight of it sometimes made his nerves creep in. LeBron noticed and pulled him aside one evening after practice. "Listen," LeBron said, looking Michael squarely in the eyes. "You've worked hard for this. Don't let the pressure get to you. When you step on that court, remember why you started. Play for the love of the game, and let everything else fall into place. Trust your training. Trust yourself." Michael nodded, taking a deep breath. LeBron's words calmed him, reminding him that no matter what happened, he had already come so far. The tryout wasn't the end. It was just another step in the journey. When the day of the tryout finally arrived, Michael was a bundle of nerves, but he was also ready. He stood on the court, surrounded by seasoned players and scouts watching from the sidelines. The stakes had never been higher, but Michael felt something click inside him. As the tryout began, he remembered LeBron's words, "Play for the love of the game." And that's exactly what he did. He played with heart, with passion, and with everything he had. Each shot, each pass, each play was a reflection of the hours of work he had put in. By the end of the tryout, Michael was exhausted, but he knew he had given it everything. As he looked over to the sidelines, he saw LeBron standing there, giving him a nod of approval. No matter the outcome, Michael had proven to himself that he belonged on that court. Now all he had to do was wait. After the tryout, Michael found himself in unfamiliar territory. Waiting. The days that followed felt like an eternity. Every hour that passed without news only heightened the pressure and anxiety building inside him. This tryout was more than just a game. It was his shot at a life he had dreamed of for so long. Now, all he could do was wait for the decision that could change his future. At first, Michael tried to keep busy, sticking to his usual routine of training and workouts. But no matter how hard he pushed himself, he couldn't escape the swirling thoughts in his mind. What if he hadn't done enough? What if the scouts hadn't seen his potential? What if, after everything, his dream was still out of reach? The self-doubt he had battled for so long began to creep back in. During one evening practice, Michael found himself missing easy shots, his movements sluggish. Frustration boiled over as he slammed the ball to the floor, his breath coming in short, anxious bursts. LeBron, who had been watching from the sidelines, immediately noticed something was wrong. "Hey," LeBron called, walking over to him. "What's going on?" Michael sighed, wiping sweat from his face, his shoulders tense. "I don't know, man. I can't stop thinking about the tryout. What if I blew it? What if it wasn't enough?" LeBron nodded, understanding the pressure Michael was feeling. It's natural to feel that way, especially when everything's on the line. But you've got to remember something. You've already won by getting this far. Not many people would have come as far as you have. Michael looked down, still feeling the weight of uncertainty. But what if it's not enough? LeBron placed a hand on his shoulder. You can't control what happens next, but you can control how you handle it. Anxiety and pressure are part of the game, part of life, but you've been through worse, and you came out stronger. Trust in the work you've put in, and trust in yourself. No matter the outcome, you've got what it takes to keep moving forward. Michael took a deep breath, trying to absorb LeBron's words. He had faced pressure before, but nothing had felt as intense as this moment. Yet, LeBron was right. He had already survived more than most people could imagine. The pressure he felt now was a sign of how far he had come, not a reason to doubt himself. Over the next few days, Michael focused on calming his mind. He started meditating in the mornings, using the techniques LeBron had taught him to stay grounded. The pressure didn't disappear, but he learned to manage it, to let it fuel his drive rather than paralyze him with fear. With each passing day, Michael found himself growing a little more patient, a little more resilient. The anxiety was still there, but now he faced it head on. Whether or not the call came, Michael knew one thing for sure. He was ready for whatever came next. The day of the tryout had been a whirlwind for Michael. As he stepped onto the court, surrounded by other talented players, the weight of the moment hit him like never before. This was it, his chance to prove himself. Scouts from several NBA teams sat on the sidelines, their eyes scanning every move. The pressure was suffocating, but Michael had prepared for this moment his entire life. From the first whistle, the game was intense. Michael felt the rush of adrenaline surging through his veins, and he knew he had to bring his A-game. He started strong, sticking to the fundamentals LeBron had drilled into him over the past months. Solid footwork, quick passes, and staying calm under pressure. His first few plays went well. He nailed a clean jump shot from mid-range, a sharp pass to a teammate, and a quick steal that earned him approving nods from the scouts. But as the tryout went on, the nerves crept in. During a fast break, Michael missed a layup he normally would have made. His heart sank. The tension in his body started to build, and for a moment, he doubted himself. What if that miss cost him everything? He shook it off as best he could, remembering LeBron's advice. One mistake doesn't define you. It's how you bounce back that matters. Michael reset, taking a deep breath, and on the next pidi, he focused on his defense, shutting down the opposing player and forcing a turnover. That small win gave him a boost, and slowly, he began to regain his rhythm. As the tryout progressed, Michael found his groove. He started attacking the basket with more confidence, using his agility to slice through the defense. He hit a couple of three-pointers, each one drawing the eyes of the scouts. His defense was solid, and he played smart, unselfish basketball, making sure to get his teammates involved rather than forcing unnecessary shots. But what really caught the attention of the coaches wasn't just his skill. It was his heart. Michael played like he had nothing to lose, diving for loose balls, hustling on every play, and showing relentless energy. Even when the game was tough, when he missed shots or made small mistakes, he never gave up. He fought for every possession, every rebound, and every opportunity to make an impact. By the end of the tryout, Michael was exhausted, but he knew he had left it all on the court. He glanced at the scouts, their faces hard to read, but he could see a few of them nodding in his direction, discussing his performance. He felt a flicker of hope. He had given it everything he had, his passion, his skills, and his heart. No matter the outcome, Michael knew he had proven something to himself. He belonged here. As he walked off the court, drenched in sweat, he caught LeBron's eye. LeBron gave him a proud nod, and that was all Michael needed. Whatever happened next, he had given it his all. He had shown them, and himself, that he had what it took to chase his dream. Now it was in their hands. After the tryout, Michael sat quietly in the locker room, the adrenaline slowly wearing off. His body ached from the intensity of the game, but his mind was racing. He replayed every moment, every shot, every pass, wondering if it had been enough. The pressure of waiting for the scouts' decision was crushing, and doubt was beginning to creep back in. He had done his best, but would that be enough to turn his dream into reality? LeBron walked in, his presence filling the room with a quiet confidence. He had watched Michael give everything on the court, and he knew exactly what his young protégé was feeling. LeBron took a seat beside him, the silence between them filled with understanding. "You did good out there, Michael," LeBron said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm but firm, a steadying force in the whirlwind of emotions Michael was experiencing. Michael sighed, running his hands through his hair. I don't know, LeBron. I missed a couple of easy shots. I could have done better. LeBron shook his head. You gave it your all, and that's what matters. No one plays a perfect game, not even the greats. The difference is in how you bounce back, how you keep pushing even when things don't go perfectly. Michael looked down, still uncertain. But what if it wasn't enough? What if I don't get picked? LeBron leaned forward, his eyes serious but full of encouragement. Listen, I know what it's like to put everything on the line and still wonder if it's enough. But you've got to remember something. This isn't the end. Whether you get picked or not, you've already proven to yourself that you can hang with the best. You're not the same kid who was struggling to survive on the streets. You've worked hard, you've earned this chance, and no matter what happens, you've already won in more ways than one. Michael let those words sink in. He knew LeBron was right. Just getting to this point had been a victory, but it was hard to shake the feeling that so much was riding on the outcome. He felt the weight of his dream pressing down on him, and the uncertainty of the future was overwhelming. LeBron continued, no matter what happens with the tryout, this is just one step. If it's not this opportunity, there will be others. You've got the talent, the drive, and the heart. Those are things that no one can take away from you. Don't let one moment define your entire journey. Michael nodded slowly, feeling some of the tension begin to lift. LeBron's words gave him a sense of perspective. He had already overcome so much, and while the tryout was important, it wasn't the only thing that would determine his future. LeBron smiled, clapping a hand on Michael's shoulder. I'm proud of you, man. You've shown everyone, including yourself, that you've got what it takes. Now, let's just see where this road takes you next. Whatever happens, you're ready for it. For the first time that day, Michael allowed himself to smile. LeBron's encouragement wasn't just about basketball, it was about life. And with his mentor by his side, Michael knew that no matter what the outcome of the tryout, he was on the right path. He was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that this was just the beginning of his story. A few days after the tryout, Michael was still anxiously waiting for the call. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart raced, only to be let down when it was just a friend or a random notification. The anticipation was eating him alive, but he tried to stay focused, reminding himself of LeBron's advice. No matter the outcome, this was just one step in the journey. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. Michael was at the gym, running drills on his own, when his phone rang. His heart skipped a beat as he saw an unfamiliar number flash on the screen. This could be it. He hesitated for a moment, gathering his thoughts before picking up the call. Hello, this is Michael, he answered, his voice steady but full of nerves. Michael, this is Coach Edwards from the G League team. We've reviewed your performance at the tryout, and I wanted to let you know, you've got potential, kid. You showed heart out there, and we were impressed. Michael's pulse quickened. Was this the moment? Was he finally about to get the news he had been waiting for? But, Coach Edwards continued, we don't have a spot for you on the roster right now. Michael's heart sank. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He had prepared himself for the possibility of rejection, but hearing it out loud was harder than he expected. He had given everything he had, and it still wasn't enough. But here's the twist, the coach added, his tone softening. We want to offer you something else, a spot in our development program. You won't be on the team yet, but this will give you the chance to keep training with us, to develop your skills and get ready for the next step. It's not a guarantee, but if you keep pushing, we believe you could earn a place on the roster down the line. Michael was speechless. This wasn't the clear-cut victory he had been hoping for, but it wasn't a rejection either. It was an opportunity, an unexpected twist in his journey. The development program wasn't what he had initially aimed for, but it was a chance to keep his dream alive and to work even harder for that spot in the NBA. After a brief pause, Michael found his voice. "I appreciate the offer, Coach. I won't let you down. I'll give it everything I've got." Coach Edwards chuckled. "That's what I like to hear. We'll be in touch with the details soon. Keep working hard, Michael. This could be your shot." As Michael hung up, he stood there in silence, processing what had just happened. It wasn't the fairy tale ending he had imagined, but it was a new path forward, an unexpected one. He would have to continue grinding, continue proving himself, but that's exactly what he had been doing all along. LeBron walked into the gym just as Michael was setting the phone down. "What's the news?" he asked, reading the look on Michael's face. "They didn't offer me a spot on the team," Michael replied, his voice steady. "But they want me in their development program. It's not a guarantee, but it's a chance." LeBron smiled, his eyes full of pride. "That's a win, Michael. That's your foot in the door. Now you just have to kick it open." Michael nodded, a wave of determination washing over him. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this twist, unexpected as it was, gave him all the motivation he needed to keep fighting for his dream. Months had passed since Michael entered the development program. Every day was a grind. Early mornings, late nights, intense training sessions. The road was tough, but Michael knew that nothing worth having ever came easy. He had a long way to go, but with each passing day, he felt himself improving, getting faster, stronger, and smarter on the court. LeBron remained by his side, offering guidance and encouragement, reminding him that the dream was still within reach. The coaches took notice of Michael's progress. His hard work, determination, and resilience were impossible to ignore. He wasn't just another kid with potential anymore. He was turning into a real prospect. As the season went on, Michael earned more opportunities, practicing with the main team, sometimes even traveling with them. But the real breakthrough came when one of the team's key players got injured just before an important G League game. It was the moment Michael had been waiting for. The coach approached him after practice. "Michael, we need you to step up. You've been working hard, and now it's your time to show us what you've got. You're suiting up for tomorrow's game." Michael could hardly believe it. He was finally getting his chance, not just to play in the development program, but in a real game. This was it, the culmination of everything he had worked for. The next day, as he stood on the court in his G League jersey, the crowd buzzing around him, Michael felt a surge of energy. This was no longer a tryout, no longer a drill. This was his moment. As the game tipped off, he channeled everything he had learned from LeBron, from the coaches, and from his own relentless drive. He played like his life depended on it, diving for loose balls, hitting clutch shots, and locking down his opponents on defense. The game was intense, but Michael was in the zone. Every movement, every decision felt like second nature. The crowd erupted when he made a game-changing three-pointer in the fourth quarter. And by the time the final buzzer sounded, Michael had proven himself. He had scored 18 points, grabbed key rebounds, and helped lead his team to victory. After the game, as Michael walked off the court, exhausted but elated, he caught sight of LeBron standing in the tunnel, smiling proudly. "That was one hell of a performance," LeBron said, pulling Michael into a hug. "I knew you had it in you." Before Michael could respond, one of the scouts from the NBA team approached, his expression serious, but impressed. "Michael, we've been watching you for a while now. You've got talent, but more than that, you've got heart. We're offering you a spot on the roster." Welcome to the NBA. Michael's heart skipped a beat. The words he had dreamed of hearing for so long were finally being spoken. His journey from homelessness to the G League and now to the NBA had come full circle. He had made it. As Michael stood there overwhelmed with emotion, he realized that this wasn't just the fulfillment of his dream, it was the beginning of a new chapter. The road to the NBA had been long and difficult, filled with unexpected twists, challenges, and moments of doubt. But through it all, he had persevered. He had proven to himself and to the world that no matter where you come from or what obstacles you face, dreams are possible if you work hard and never give up. LeBron clapped him on the back, grinning. "You've earned this, Michael. Now go out there and show the world what you're made of." Michael smiled, a deep sense of fulfillment washing over him. He was finally where he had always dreamed of being, on the biggest stage with his mentor by his side. But this was just the beginning. Now it was time to make the most of it.